like everybody was for Kenmare. That's not right. Kenmare's a cool place.
If you miss the Legislature Today radio show live, never fear. You can always watch it or listen online at GreatPlainsNews.com. That's our website, GreatPlainsNews.com. And don't forget, we're live Saturdays, 10 a.m. to noon, all across the state of North Dakota on the Voice of the Northern Plains, 550 K-Fire, AM 1100 The Flag, Fargo-Moorhead, and AM 1090 The Flag in the Bakken. The Legislature Today radio show. Now back to more of the program and your host, Dale Wetzel.
This is Dale Wetzel. This is the Legislature Today radio show. We're coming to you from the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Gary Emineth, who is typing away busily on a Apple iPad. And we also have with us as our guest for the second half hour or the first hour of our show, we have Mr. Troy Coons, who's the vice chairman of the Northwest Landowners Association. The association and its members have been quite active during the 2013 legislative session in trying to act as a counterweight, frankly, to the oil industry and trying to act as a safeguard to property rights and surface landowner rights in the legislature at the same time without trying to needlessly inhibit oil development. This organization sees itself as not opposed to oil development, but just wants it done reasonably with respect for the rights of surface landowners who may or may not be benefiting from oil exploration directly, because in North Dakota, if you do not own the mineral rights beneath your the surface of your land, you don't necessarily profit from oil development, even though it is taking place on your land and you have trucks moving in and out and equipment and the hassles that one would normally associate with an oil rig on your property. And one of the chief concerns of the association and one of the issues that's been debated during the session is a balance between oil exploration and the rights of landowners, particularly surface landowners. Mr. Coons, how would you describe, first of all, tell us a bit about your organization. I described it a little bit, but I'm sure that you have you do have a much more detailed understanding of it than I do. Why don't you tell us a bit about it?
Well, thanks, Dale. I'll probably start off with our board of directors. We have a 13-person board of directors that right now range from the Tioga area to Botno. The chairman of our organization is Myron Hansen. He's from the Botno-Souris area. Myself, Troy Coons from Donnybrook. Bob Grant is our treasurer, and he's from the Berthold area. We have Galen Peterson from that Botno-Souris area. We have Aaron Jacobson from Noonan area. Tom Wheeler from Ray. Jim Dahl from Ray. David King from Kenmare. Brian Ankenbauer from Bowbells. Daryl Bielick from Tioga. Lance Gelsted from Souris. And Daryl Peterson from the Antler area.
How I'm thinking about north to south, east to west. How big of a area do you think that you represent?
I was looking at the membership list earlier today, and I see we have members on there from Wisconsin to Louisiana to California, but a bulk of them range from that Botno area to Dickinson area and slightly into Montana and South Dakota is a bulk of them.
And tell us how the organization was formed, what the impetus for it was.
Back when we saw the oil development starting, myself and Bob Grant from Berthold, our treasurer, right straight south of us is where this started. And we saw some of the things happening and thought we should try to develop a unified voice to kind of be the opposite of the Petroleum Council so we can have a checks and balances. And that's where it started from. And
when did it begin, sir?
In an informal fashion about 4 years ago, formally a little over 2 years ago.
How often do you meet? Do you have meetings?
We have an annual meeting. We have regional meetings. We have informational meetings. And then the board of directors meets every month. And then we have email correspondence pretty much daily.
How do you decide what bills you're going to follow and what position, if any, your organization will take on those bills?
They come in from our membership. We'll compile all of the different concerns out there and try to weight them by our membership base, and then we'll sit down as a Board of Governors and place this one with this priority and this one with this priority. And usually this time we come with 6. That was quite a few bills to manage.
Do you have particular areas of expertise that your particular board members follow? I mean, do they have individual portfolios of expertise that they exercise when we're talking about issues?
Well, we have a very diverse board, from the young family starting out to the grandparents' age. So it spans a couple generations there. Then we also have where, we have farmers, we have ranchers, and all those people are small business people. So it covers kind of the stewardship of the land, and then they've got family roots here.
And talk about what bills you were following this session and what happened to them.
Okay. First of all, we had the first one we were going with was 1347. That was to have pressure gauges and shut-off valves on transmission lines for the oil and the gas and the water. That bill got merged into Bill 1333. So itself it was basically defeated, but put into 1333, which...
And talk to us about why you think that was necessary to have pressure gauges on lines that carry oil and salt water.
Well, it's to minimize the damage. If you have a pressure gauge and an automatic shut-off, you may lose 3 barrels or 10 barrels instead of 200 barrels. So it's a lot easier to catch it early, a lot less damage.
Is there do pipeline companies normally put this type of equipment on their pipelines?
In some instances, but not all.
And what are the ones that don't do it? Are they oil pipelines, or are they saltwater pipelines, or what do they have? Do they have anything in common?
It's both. It's both. And so what
does it depend on the operator?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be mainly the operator.
All right.
The next bill we were working with was House Bill 1348, and that was the setback bill, which refers to where the oil head is set. And right now the rule is 500 feet from occupied residence. We were looking for 1,320 feet. There was a bill on the Senate side as well for 1,000 feet. Both of those failed in the 1,000 failed, and ours we ended up negotiating to where the well bore stays at 500 feet. Treaters, tanks, flares, all are 1,000 feet away, and that's where our most concern was with, those being closer to a home.
Explain to me what a drilling site looks like. I mean, you mentioned treaters and flares, and try to walk me through, if you have one of these things outside your house, what are you looking at, and what should you be afraid of?
Well, what you'll see is they'll come in, they'll level a pad. Originally, a lot of them were 4 to 6 acres. Some of them grown to 6 to 8 acres. Now you're seeing a lot of multi-well pads that can be 20-some acres, and that's with the new drilling rigs that can move on site on tracks. What you'll see is they'll come in and level the site. They'll put usually a ridge of topsoil someplace on the edge of it. Then they'll come in, drill the well. There's also an access road. When they hit oil, then they'll put in a flare which should automatically relight. They'll put a berm around that. They'll put in tanks and treaters with berms around them in case there's a spill.
What is a treater?
That's what deals with the raw product coming up that's separating out the gases and your salts in your water or oil.
Okay.
And with that was where our main concerns were, not as much with just where the well bore was, but those type of things where if the flare goes out and you got the gases, or it's really close to a home, there's smells and that type of thing.
What happens when a flare goes out?
Well, there's a strong gas from that, and so it makes your eyes burn, your throat burn, people pass out from it, that type of thing. So what we wanted to do is get that away from the home so it could dissipate quicker before it gets to them.
What causes a flare to go out usually?
I am not actually sure what the usual cause is. I mean, there's things with the winds and the gases and all of that. There's a multiple of different reasons.
And can you tell me, what is the purpose of flaring? Why is it done?
Well, they don't have, in all of these places, the transmission in place to move the gas to a treating plant yet. So they're doing that so they can pull the oil production out because the gas and salt water come with the crude.
And so they're just burning this gas?
Correct.
And they're wasting it, basically, aren't they?
Yeah, it's getting burnt up.
What sort of, was your organization interested in trying to make sure that there's less of that done?
There wasn't much based on that this session. I mean, it's a concern for everybody. I mean, you want to minimize that as much as you can. It's a natural resource that's out there. I think most everybody hates to see it wasted.
I'm thinking, does your organization have a lot of royalty owners that may think, the company is burning up a resource that I should be getting paid for?
We have a balance between surface rights and mineral owners and a combination. We have a little bit of everything, so we look at all those things. And just so you know, we do deal with whatever is out there, not just oil. I wanted to make that kind of clear, but right now it's primarily lists that's taken up our time, but we are interested in whatever we can help other people with out there.
What sort of other landowner rights issues have you been dealing with that don't relate to oil and gas? Have there been that many?
It's not been that many. We have not been asked to do many, but we want people to know that we're not just oil-based. We are there for all of the surface mineral owners, or if it's water or whatever.
Okay, we were talking about the bills that you were following. Did you have any others?
We had 1352, which was a House bill. That was with mediation. The last session we got it set up so that the Ag Department could handle mediation. Prior to that, it could only handle finance with Ag. Now it can handle this. We had to get some changes done there because there's federal funding, and with that, it did not cover the total expense of this. So it's went from $25 an hour to $170. With this, one person or one party can go in and request mediation. The person that's handling the mediation then will contact the other side, request them to come in for an orientation. And generally that's the key part, is to get somebody in the middle and get them to sit down and talk so that they can come to a resolution. In the last 17 months, I believe there's been 25 cases. 88% of them have come up with a favorable outcome. So very popular program, doing well.
When we say favorable outcome to the property owner?
Both parties.
Okay.
Both parties were happy with the settlement.
All right. And how is this, generally speaking, how has your membership embraced this? Do they think it's worthwhile, and are there any improvements that they've suggested to it?
One of them would have been where you have the person that's handling the mediation talk to the other side and get them to come to the table, be a little more aggressive that way. That was asked for, and that's been put in place. Very strong positive responses from the membership. The other thing we had, I guess, as far as bills was 1333. And that was the one I was talking that blended with 1347. This is a reclamation bill for pipelines, treaters, old sites from 1982 and forward. This is a lot of the old oil field where you'll see the corroded tank sitting there, or salt issues, those type of things that are out there. This was put in place with a $75 million fund to deal with that, and any penalties or fines that are put in place by the oil and gas, so it can go above the $75 million or be replenished.
Is $75 million enough in your judgment for a fund of this nature?
If we have a few large instances, it's going to take more. we felt that this was a very good starting point, and we hope it will be. This thing's growing every day. So, again, it'll have to be revisited. But at this point, yes.
At what point does this fund kick in? I mean, under what circumstances is this fund used?
Say that there's a site and the operator is gone. They can't find anybody that has the liability for it. Either they're out of business, then it goes to this. If they're operating in the country or in the state, then they'll be gone to have them cover it. But if they're out of business where they can't find anybody, then this is where it comes into play. Everything else has to be exhausted first.
And as far as the mediation process itself, were you satisfied having it in the Ag Department, or did you want another arrangement?
No, we're very happy with it being in the Ag Department. They bring in specialists that deal with this, so they bring in the right people to get the job done.
How has your involvement with the legislature over the past 4 years or so, how has it influenced? I mean, based upon your exposure to the legislature, what is your opinion of how it works?
Well, there's a lot to learn. I mean, especially in this environment. I mean, when you look at the expansion of the oil industry in the state, the dollars that are being dealt with, we have flood issues, we have oil issues. These people, they have a mountain of emails and bills to deal with. So there's a lot to learn about who to talk to, how to do that. I think the key is to be true to your cause, be upfront and honest with them, so that when you're talking to them, they'll listen to you. I mean, there's many people out there that will massage things and do this and that. I don't think you can do that. You got to be straight up with them.
Are you satisfied that the legislators have given you a fair and respectful hearing on your issues?
Yes. Yes, we are. Always, when you go with 6 bills, you would like to see them all move forward. I mean, that's why we're there. But it's a negotiation process. It's an education process. This is a big development out front of us, so it's going to take us a little time to get everybody up to speed on what's going on. But we've made some great inroads with the heads of all of the departments and the legislators. So I think next session we'll be doing well.
Have you had any involvement with the issue of when drilling begins or activity begins on a lease? Because there's been a bit of debate about at what point does an oil company lose its lease if it doesn't have activity going on the lease ground. And, you have situations where, literally a truck is parked on the property or something really inconsequential is done, and that is used as an argument that that's all they need to do to hold the lease indefinitely. Are you involved in that sort of dispute?
We did have a bill that was related to commencement of drilling. By the time it had left the House and was on the Senate side, it really didn't have the same intent that we had started out with, and it was killed on the Senate side. It feels like something that's fairly simplistic, that when the drill bit hits the ground and starts turning, and it's a drilling rig that can complete that well, that should be the start. It seems simplistic, but when you get into this and there's this volume of money involved, things like this will happen. I'm sure that, you're here, you're working on your bills, and I imagine you're thinking about next time, how you can improve what you do, proposals to bring to the next session 2 years from now. What are some of those? Well, we learned start earlier. As soon as we're finished, we got to start. Last time there was a gap in there. We were new to things. We need to start early. In June, we're going to start on administrative rule. That'll take probably 10 months. Those are things we're looking at on bills that did not make it through, like we had a reclamation bill that we wanted for these new sites, that there'd be some standard put in place that would be more site-specific for topsoil, compaction, foreign materials left there, more along the lines of, how coal started out and how it is now. Something that was more comprehensive, so in the end, it'll be a place that you'll be proud of. That bill got killed, then we tried to go to a study bill. That was also killed. So now we'll be working on trying to get something put in place through the oil and gas in administrative rule, and that process starts in June and takes about 10 months.
What kind of progress do you think you've made in building relationships with legislators that can help you?
I'm very confident. There's a lot of good people there. If you, like I said earlier, if you approach them in the proper way, are honest with them so they can believe what you're telling them and believe your data, I think we'll make a lot of inways into a lot of things next time.
When you say approach them in the proper way, are you talking just about honesty and straightforwardness, or are you talking about something else too?
That's, I think, the primary thing. Then have your data ready, have your bills worded properly, just get everything in place and make it easier for them, because they get flooded with emails, documentation. These people have a mountain of stuff to sort through, so if you can make it simple and they can trust you, that's huge.
How have you learned from your mistakes?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's where I was saying, instead of giving a break in between, you got to start now.
At what point do you think maybe you've reached this point? At what point do you think you're comfortable with what you're doing, that you think you're proficient? Do you think you're proficient now, or?
No. If you're talking about me personally and how I see the group, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I think you're ever evolving, and the game is ever evolving. So, no, you got to keep striving to improve the whole time.
Do you get involved in whether certain folks that you think are sympathetic to you get reelected?
We haven't been. Again, we're very new to this. We have not been.
Do you make campaign contributions, for example?
No.
Okay. Have you been asked for them?
As of this point, no.
Have you thought about what you might do when you reach that bridge, if you ever do?
That would be, again, we'd have to go back to the Board of Governors and make a decision where we want to be.
And so how would you sum up how well the organization's done this year?
I'm very proud of the organization. The things I hear from, the legislators and the administrators and the state agencies, they said we've made great steps, great strides in a short amount of time. I feel we're going to move forward rather quickly in that. I think with how it's went this session, we're going to have good inroads, kind of be in the counterbalance to the Petroleum Council, representing the landowners on administrative rule. I think that's going to be a huge step. When you're walking through the Capitol there, it feels like a daunting task because there's not many there doing what we do. Actually, we're kind of alone in this fight. There's other farm organizations, but they each have their own focus. And so, it is a daunting task.
Do you think the oil industry has too much power?
Well, they do have a lot of power. There's no doubt about that. I think that's just a reality of it. It's business. So we're just trying to counterbalance that, because we are definitely not anti-business, anti-oil, just looking for fair and equitable treatment.
We've been speaking to Mr. Troy Coons, who is the Vice Chairman of the Northwest Landowners Association, which represents, I believe, about 400 folks.
That's correct.
About 400 members in northwestern North Dakota and also in other states where it represents folks who are concerned about the rights of surface landowners and acting as a counterweight to the political influence of the oil industry. And Mr. Coons has been a guest with us several times during the session, and quite valuable, because landowner rights are something that every North Dakotan should be concerned about, and this is a good way to explore this in depth. Thank you for your time, Mr. Coons.
Thank you, Dale.
This is Dale Wetzel, and this is the Legislature Today at the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck.
American Family Insurance has all the answers to your questions about renter's insurance.
If my upstairs neighbor's pipe breaks and floods my place, Replacing my stuff is their responsibility, right?
Actually, that responsibility is all yours.
What if smoke from the apartment below ruins my couch or clothing?
Well, that would still be on you because it's in your apartment.
What about my landlord's insurance?
Their insurance only covers their ceiling, floors, and walls.